So I think there are a few questions that are being discussed on the forum. So there are two ways we can do it. One is actually for the people in the call today to actually throw the questions out, put the audio or even video out and ask the questions directly. Another one is for us to actually read out the questions that has been compiled by Blue Stage. So that's another way. So I don't know if which way is the preferred way. So I will start with the questions that is written on the document and try to answer on the fly. And if any of you have any questions that you would like to ask David, I think it's even better for the community to ask it directly and for us to address it. So I will start, and if you have anything, just jump in. The first thing is that quorum cannot be reached unless the company votes. I think there are, when we talk about the company, the foundation voting, there are actually two mechanisms. One is actually the validator itself voting. The other one is actually addresses which holds the foundation's token to vote. So our position is that the public, the foundation validator shall not vote, including abstain. And what is possible is actually for the owners of the addresses, of the foundation addresses, to be able to vote. So in that sense, the position is clear that the delegator addresses can vote, but not the company validator. So I don't know, why don't David, you play the role of the community and ask the questions? I think there are yeah.
Well, I think with regard to that, so the big question was, so does that mean that if the addresses that the foundation holds do not even vote at all, in other words, if they don't even abstain, is it possible for a proposal to reach the quorum?
It is possible for the proposal to reach quorum. Yes. On the outset, because of the addresses that the foundation validator holds. So if you look at the percentage of the foundation validator holds, that of course will say that it is not possible. But I think it's important to know that the addresses behind those validators, those company validators, have the right to vote and voice their own opinion. So if you purely look at the percentage that's being held by the company validators, of course, it will not be able to reach quorum. But the company validators are not all held by company owners, but there are public people that have delegated to the company validator. So I think in that regard, it is actually incorrect to say that if the company validator doesn't vote, it is impossible to reach quorum. So that is factually incorrect. What is correct, though, is what many in the forum has pointed out. It will become hard, challenging for a proposal to pass. That is true if a public validator doesn't vote, because right now, many people that hold tokens that have delegated, even delegating it to the company validator, are not voting. Does that...
Right, and so I mean, I understand that, and if people are having questions along the way, I hope they'll raise their hands so that they can can expand on that. I think one of the other points that was brought up was sort of comparisons to other platforms that also give out seed funding or funding of some sort. I know that Richard, I hope is in the audience. Richard was doing some research on the various proposals, and if he's here, I'd like to have him kind of talk about how other platforms have operate.
Hi. Yeah. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, I can share my screen and I'll just run through some research notes that I have across, different grants that are available out in the market. Sorry. Let me just move this away. So if you, just a quick snapshot of, like Uniswap grant program, and so I've taken a look at a few and I've highlighted three main grants: Uniswap grant program, Web3 Foundation grants program, and let me see, the ecosystem support program. So this is Ethereum Foundation. The one above is Polkadot. So for the Polkadot one, across all these three grants, basically the max cap is 100,000 USD for the highest tier of grant. And that requires about 5 to 6. It is a committee that requires about 5 to 6 committee members to actually vote for that proposal. And the lowest tier you have like about 10,000, and maybe a mid tier will be about 50,000. But across the board, the highest tier that you can get for all these three grants is 100,000. So if you just look at Ethereum Foundation as well, the average or the median, across all the different waves and all the different grants that were being issued is 37,500. And Uniswap itself, at its highest, at the peak of what the price of Ethereum was, they only managed to get 200,000 USD funded. And how profitable Ethereum was and how many transactions there were because of it. And putting Dalvers into perspective, right? Like if they were to apply in the Web3 Foundation grant, it's probably falling within the 1 to 2 tiers, right? And even if, let's say, they were to apply in the Ethereum Foundation grant, they will only be able to get 200,000 max. And looking at Uniswap grant program, so how Uniswap grant program did is actually they voted in a committee of 6 members, and these 6 members are in charge of a quarterly fund of 750,000 USD. So putting Dalvers into perspective as well, I think that kind of it's more than what Uniswap grant program issues in a quarter. And in one quarter they can fund about 13 projects. So this is just something of the existing grants in a snapshot. And we have to bear in mind as well, like all these 3 grants, right, they have very strict guidelines. They ask you about what's the different milestones, what's your team background. And first and foremost is always that you present your GitHub account, because we are in a blockchain company, right? The first thing that we need to do is to deploy a workable solution on the blockchain or DApp. And the first thing to get is a tech developer or blockchain developer or smart contract developer. So this is something that is really key in all these grants out there. Yeah.
Good. Okay. Thank you. And so, I mean, one of the things that the foundation really has to work on, and together with the community, is coming up with greater clarity in terms of the guidelines. And I think we're in a position to sort of pick and choose from other platforms in terms of what may be a good approach in terms of having, whether we have a committee and the people who are on that committee. And that has to, I think very necessarily, as Richard points out, we're a blockchain company, and so to have a committee without developers, blockchain developers, making the assessment wouldn't make sense. And I think that in part was what was the problem that arose here, in that the community that participates in the forum, and those of us who participate in social media, for the most part, are not developers, and this includes me. And so the assessment was much more. I don't know if superficial is exactly the right word, but it didn't contemplate the difficulties from a developer's perspective. And so, I think it's important that certainly going forward that we have more of a clear voice from the developer community, because I think that's what in part, swayed or directed the votes of those addresses that are held by some people, in the company, who are looking at it without that emotional part to it, without knowing the people, and maybe without the same appreciation on the, what's been done on the digital side and all of the other work that was done, but rather they were thinking more, wait a second, where's, and again, I brought that out also, where's the CTO? Where's that third leg in this very strong team of Patrick and Shady, but where's that third leg that they're going to be dependent on in terms of building out the project? So I just kind of bring that up. Zach, one of the comments that's been made is that now with two private proposals having failed, how do we build the motivation for others to participate?
Sure. So I think I also want to take this opportunity to say something to Patrick and Shady. I know we had a call after the proposal voting, and I would like to say that regardless how things move forward, where you guys want to build next, or how the plans evolve, I would like to give a sincere shout out to the both of you. Even though the proposal has failed, you guys have demonstrated a very gracious attitude. Patrick, you said that you would continue building regardless. And I think that from an entrepreneur to another, I think that separates an entrepreneur to be from a real entrepreneur. So I know you have also your own entrepreneurship experience. So I think that I would like to again say this here. And David, so one of the few things that we have discussed is actually to change some of the mechanics of the voting to increase transparency and also decrease the dependency on the company validator. The first one that is obvious is how to decrease the quorum percentage. I think it's clear that we want to decrease the quorum percentage. One proposal that was given was actually to tie quorum to non-foundation validators, which means that the 40% will actually be counted towards the public validator. I think this is one proposal. The second proposal is actually just to simply reduce the quorum percentage. Personally, I think one is better, but the second one will probably be easier to implement on the code. So I think guys like Richard and the technical team will have to assess that. So I think this is number one. The number two is actually something, David, you brought up in the last call, which was actually maybe different categories should have different deposit fees. So tentatively, we came out with reducing the deposit fee by more than half. So from 10,000 to less than 5,000, and with a cliff of requiring the deposit to constitute 5% of the value asked. So if you are talking about 100,000 asked, then that would be 1,000 plus 5%, which is 5,000. So I think that our initial assessment on the code level says that it's straightforward. It wouldn't complicate the blockchain too much. So I think that is also looking positive. So these are like the few things that we can do to actually reduce the difficulty, but also at the same time keep the neutrality of the foundation validator.
Right. And so, I mean, I've noticed also in the discussion on the forum that there's been a trajectory that just like I personally, responded initially emotionally because we, I think, felt as a community we had such a strong backing of Patrick and Shady personally and for the project, and then as that kind of emotional response wears off, there are more or less emotional thoughts given to it. And so I noticed that in recent posts there's an appreciation sort of for where we are in terms of moving towards decentralization, that we aren't there yet. And so the foundation obviously has a responsibility to the ecosystem, and that some of these I don't think they were thought of as barriers, but some of the conditions that were put in place and the quorum that was decided initially, as well as the fee that was required initially, was not done with the thought of keeping us centralized, but was rather with the thought of keeping us stable, to ensure that there was still a healthy growth in what we were putting on FX Core. And I think other people raised the concern that if the bar is dropped too low, or if there isn't adequate, so I think someone referred to it as KYC, but it's really doing our due diligence on the proposals, that you run a risk of having of having scammers get approved. I mean, we don't know people personally, so I think that there's a lot to be said for for adjusting things and not making the quorum or the fees required as an obstacle. But at the same time, I think that we can improve what we do in terms of, if you will, due diligence on the proposals that come in. to ensure the safety of the ecosystem.
And also, David, to add, one thing that by researching the different grants, including Ethereum's grant, is that they actually have a committee of 5 or 7 to actually function as a gatekeeper. So, for the marketing non-tech, we have FXDM, which is a mix of the community and people from the foundation. Perhaps we can also look into having a committee as well for the technical proposals. So I think that would also be something possible, and we would like people here, people that are really care for the projects, to actually be inside the committee. So I think that is also something that we learn from the other foundations. Another thing that someone mentioned is actually the concept of entrepreneur in residence. So which is actually to pair up people of different ability. So for example, a project that has good marketing people might actually need a smart contract developer to bootstrap. So I think this could also be something that we can offer for those teams. So I think these are like 2 take homes that we can look into. Yeah.
So I think we've addressed kind of most of the questions that came in, and so I'd really like people from the community who are here right now to to raise their head and raise their hand. I'm sorry, and ask questions or make comments on what we've said.
I think Ive or Eve wrote a question on the chat. So right now you have company validators, FX members validator, and third-party validators. Concerning the third-party validators such as Litecoin, European University of Cyprus, etc., were they aware of the proposal, and how can we as the public know that they are aware of the proposal? Good point. They are slowly gathering quite a bit of tokens, so their voting power is increasing by the day. I'm not sure if they are aware or whether they are not, but I think from now on what we can do is to actually alert them about the voting going on, and potentially trying to get their person in charge to also surface on the forum. So I think to put kind of like a face to the validator. So I think that is what we will do. But whether or not they vote is up to them, and how they vote is also up to them. But we will reach out to them and tell them that, hey, it's not just about hosting a validator, but also getting involved with the community. I think it will be very exciting if some of them actually surface in the forum and really know what we are doing in depth. So I think that we will do. Yeah.
I think that's a good idea, and as I've talked, a number of people have talked to Richard about this, but that when we look at the description of validators, it's probably helpful for some of us to know what their voting record is, not necessarily how they voted, but whether they voted. And again, I mean, as I've mentioned before, I think while certainly people who delegate to a validator look at a number of different factors, including what the APY is and uptime and all of those other sort of more objective things. It's also, I think, a consideration that people will make whether or not a particular validator participates in the voting. Questions, comments?
Patrick, do you have anything to? Richie actually also wrote something. So he says that from what I'm hearing so far, various categories in the EGF are irrelevant given the extreme focus on the technical side. Well, I guess it's true. It's not incorrect. But I guess the FXDM, the FunctionX decentralized marketing, is there to also cater for the non-technical side. So it's basically everything. It encompasses everything, and the FXDM is trying to make it easier for people to not need to go through proposals to actually draw fund from the FXDM. Yeah, which some of the committee are actually here.
And because we're also in the FXDM side, we are looking at putting together sort of larger proposals on behalf of the community's comments in terms of, for example, putting together YouTube channels that are teaching certain things, and so more on the marketing or on the soft side of things. So when there will be an outlet or a opportunity to get funding for other than just the technical side.
Correct. I think that the second question from Ive is for you, David.
I can't see it on the screen. That I saw it flash on, but I don't know where it's gone.
Okay. So can and will the company give the 10K FX back to Dalverse guys?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. I mean, we appreciate that, and I think we've talked about it offline, but we'll definitely give that back.
So Pixel ask, you should set a max amount that the company is willing to provide. Proposals seem to be over the top when they ask for funds. The first one was 750K, while the new one being discussed is 250K for marketing a project. So I don't know the 250K, what is that? But yeah, David, what's...
So, I mean, this is, what's become very clear is that we have to have better guidelines that break this down and that, are more in line with how other foundations seed these things. And again, I mean, there's certain things that have jumped out in terms of, doing all proposals in tranches with clear milestones. And the money in a second tranche can be released automatically as long as that milestone is reached. And I think that gives, I just think, it's obviously kind of a better way to go on these things.
Mm, mm. And that also connects to what Richard have said, like whether it's Ethereum Foundation or Polkadot's, they have like a designated amount every quarter. I think it's 750K US dollar per quarter. So I think that yeah. And
I think also when we do this, I think the committee idea is a good one, not only in kind of doing the due diligence on the proposals that come in, but that remain as sort of supervisors or mentors as these projects go on, to give them whatever resources or help them out in whatever way that we can in terms of helping them reach their milestones.
So this Dutch guy says that, is there ideas, proposals given to FXDM and passed to get the required funds for their proposal? So far, I haven't seen any. That's this Dutch guy.
Right, we're working right now in terms of enlisting outside help on the marketing side. I mean, there's been a sort of a consistent and justified complaint in terms of the quality of our marketing. And so we're looking at outside professionals in terms of helping us with marketing campaigns, as well as creators to give better kind of definition and guidance in what we're doing on that side. So we'll, if we exceed whatever funds that we have as FXDM, then we will put together a proposal to be able to fund from the Ecosystem Genesis Fund.
And there's a suggestion from Clarence. The suggestion is a team to help guide good potential projects in submitting proposal in tranches, milestones, rather than one big lump sum. Example, Dalverse is a good idea, but the amount could be scaring voters off. So that is a suggestion from Clarence. Richie again asks, I do think a lot of people misunderstand the costs associated with marketing. Marketing costs money, staff and equipment costs money. We don't deny that. We think that as a project progresses, the requirement for funds will increase tremendously. I think what we are trying to say is not that a project cannot request for a high amount. Rather, the amount should be in tranches, and when one tranche has been fulfilled, then another tranche will be released. I think, and the tranches, I think as a science student, the tranches should, the best way is to be quantifiable, to be objective tranches. I think that will be critical for the community to evaluate. So I think objective tranches is very key.
Right, and that can be applied also on the marketing side, which Richie is very interested in. And so, rather than asking for the funding of a series of 10 YouTube videos, you look at it, again, you kind of break it down in tranches and you say, okay, I want to do this one video, and it will take X amount of money in terms of production costs and all of these other things. And if I reach a definable metric, like 10,000 hits, a increase in whatever. They're all, you know, I used to fight this when I in Microsoft days, when sort of metrics came in, but there's good reason for it, and one of those good reasons, particularly within a community environment, is that it's definable. No one, you know, if you can come back and say, okay, my first video got 10,000 hits, and so I want the funding for doing a second video and a third video, and all along the way you're able to measure the success that you're achieving. Then that makes it very, you know, I think an easy thing for people to support.
In fact, all those can be baked into one proposal, but only when you hit the target, it is being released. So I think that's fair.
And again, I think as we refine this, and I think the you know, breaking these down into different kinds of categories will help this, in that we will be able to get kind of the expertise both from the foundation and the company, as well as from the community, to be kind of good judges and good mentors in particular projects for what they need. So, I mean, for example, I mean, having you know, having somebody who has game development experience be part of a committee that looks at you know, the proposal that for example, that Dalverse had put up, will be helpful from the beginning in helping them better define what, from a game developer's perspective, is a proposal with a high likelihood of success.
Okay. So any other questions, guys and girls? So, so I think we can take the last question, David. So again, I've heard from Dalverse that they are going through with their project. Can we expect that they will return one day to the FX blockchain because they will get help from FX? How do you see the future concerning Dalverse? I think that's best.
Patrick's here.
Yes.
Here. Why don't you say something?
Hi guys. Hope you're doing well. I didn't expect actually much talking time, so I didn't prepare something like a big talk or something. But yeah, we actually spoke through that. I think we have a 2-hour night call after the proposal ended with Zach and Shadi. So from our time, it was from like midnight to 2 o'clock, or from Shadi, it was like from 4 o'clock to 6. So yeah, we were really working exactly that day on further development. And yeah, we spoke about that. And to return back to the FX blockchain, that was actually never out of question. It was just a matter if we like focus totally on this FX blockchain and the market it shares actually right now. Right now, the FX blockchain is honestly far behind other blockchains. What's the NFT community development, NFT market, and something like that. We can't really compare to like the volumes that are traded on other blockchains, like to call the smallest of them Avalanche, the biggest right now Solana, which has its own flaws, and like Polygon, which is really heavily mounting up right now in the development part. But yeah, we from beginning we wanted to make this one a multi-chain concept. We don't want to have it only running on like only FX. We wanted to have like other parts of the market, like Solana guys or Polygon guys or Ethereum or BSC guys that are all into this crypto and gaming. We wanted to open up to them anyway. So the aim we have is now that we try to get this market shares at the whole market, not only at the single blockchain, to give access to most of the people in a really easy way to access the DAOverse and come into the FunctionX world as well. So we are getting help. We are getting offered help on the blockchain side from the foundation, and we gladly accept it. And we will build it multi-chain. And we don't only focus to at all costs bring everyone to FX and then build it. We will open it up right from the start to the multi-chain world, and try our best to get our base set in FX if it's possible. Right now, exactly now, right this hour is not possible, but it will be in the future, and we know that. And I chose FX from the beginning because of its capabilities in the multi-chain, cross-chain sector, and I wanted to achieve this world, bring this world out to everyone on the planet, and not only to FX, one single blockchain. So I hesitated to launch it on Solana anyway, because that's not interoperable at all right now, and the transaction volume of them are killed every 2 weeks with outtakes of the short takes of their whole blockchain. So it isn't the best system right now there, and we try to use the best amount of every blockchain as possible and connect it to this. And I think we can have a good home here in the FX ecosystem. And it's not on off the table that we might refine the proposal we already have given, and maybe this DAOverse proposal, as it was designed to break the system. And I actually like this game the system and reach out to the max and show up. I'm a process engineer from my former job, and I worked in very big companies like Johnson & Johnson, which is one of the biggest in the world, for example. And there is find the weaknesses and show them to make them work in future. And this is one part I wanted to achieve with the DAOverse. That's why I was a little bit of hardlining and just not say, oh, okay, we go in tranches and then we go through. No, then we won't solve this problem. So we are only in this discussion because we had this really breaking concept, and that was the part of my idea behind that. Because I'm not only as DAOverse founder here, I'm a FX investor of the first days as well. So the system is really really important for me, and I still want to build it here. I still want to make it possible for outside people to go into the FX world, create more interest in the FX wallets and raise their numbers. And still we will build it on the multi-chain approach there. Yeah.
I think that's really great. And you did push it. And we wouldn't be having this discussion, and we wouldn't have a forum chain of 250 comments, the vast majority of which were very thoughtful and very constructive. And so, I'd like to thank you, because I think that's right. I don't think that there was a way of getting to this point without having gone through what the DAOverse challenged us with. So, thank you.
You're welcome.
And I think, David, to sum up, something to look forward to, something very exciting that is coming up. So as you guys know, variable, the native token is FX. So everything that is being transacted right now is on testnet. We will launch a few more versions before we go on to mainnet. Which means that those transactions will translate on FX mainnet. So I think that will up the volume quite a bit. So every time you short Tesla, you are contributing to the FunctionX transaction, or long Tesla. Another thing that is potentially even more exciting, which I think the DAOverse team will also be using, is EVM compatibility. So we will be able to support 100% seamlessly Solidity codes that are already being deployed on other chain that are EVM compatible to move into our chain, and also from our chain to the other EVM compatible chain. So I think that will also substantially up the transaction volume. So yeah, it's going to be really fun from now on.
And finally, I see that Kronos has jumped into the forum discussions. And so, I mean, there have been a lot of questions with regard to market making, and so that is, you know, something that I think will also benefit all of us as a community.
Yeah. All right. Shall we wrap it up?
Unless there, I don't see questions on my screen. But if you see something that looks interesting, otherwise we can wrap it up.
Okay. One final one from Superbit. So he's calling in from work, so we definitely have to answer this for him. So are we able to touch on how to get liquidity for the FX variable? There are two methods. One is to build liquidity internally, which is to port the liquidity to traditional trading houses. So you know, when someone long or short Tesla, we don't take position, but the counterparty position is being taken on the traditional exchanges. So this is one. The second one is to engage outside market maker that provides liquidity. So we haven't gone to that level of talk yet with say Kronos, but for those of you who know Kronos, you know that they are a big deal. For those that know, like, you know, so like enterprise trading, you know, Kronos is a big deal. So we haven't gone to that level yet. We are also pleasantly surprised that they have surfaced on the forum. So both internally and externally, there are mechanisms to build liquidity. So I think, yeah. So I guess we shall call it a day and evening.
Okay. Thank you, everyone. Patrick, I'd like to especially thank you for chiming in. I appreciate that.
You're welcome.
Thank you, guys. Good night.
Good night.
Good night.
Yeah. Morning in some places.
Afternoon.
All right. Ciao. Bye.